started on school wellness, what parents need to know. And we're so glad that you all could join us today. My name is Carol Muller. I am the Regional Field Manager for Colorado here at Action for Healthy Kids. And presenting with me today is Denise Marquez. She is our Parent Advocate Program Coordinator in Colorado. And we also are very excited. We have two special guests that will be speaking later in the hour, two parents who are on our Parent Advisory Board, Sarah Breeze and Liz Murphy. And they're going to talk a little bit about the success they've had in their schools later in the presentation. First of all, let's go over some of the logistics. Once you're linked in, you should be able to see a control panel, usually on the right side of your screen. You can use your telephone or your speakers to listen to the presentation, but everybody will be muted to avoid static and background interference, dogs barking, doorbells ringing, and that type of thing. You'll note that there is a dialog box at the bottom of your control panel. You can type questions into that dialog box as we're going along, and we'll try to get them answered either later in the presentation or via email following the webinar. This webinar is being recorded. Links to the recording and resources will be sent to you within 2 to 3 business days after the webinar. So let's get started. First, a little bit of background on Action for Healthy Kids. We are a national nonprofit. We fight childhood obesity, undernourishment, and physical inactivity by focusing on helping schools become healthier places. We're made up of parents and students and educators. We have a lot of community leaders and health professionals in our network, and we really feel that a healthier environment in our schools will help our kids be more ready to learn and learn those healthy habits for later in life. We think that everybody has a part to play in ending the nation's childhood obesity epidemic, and we have lots of great programs, tools, and resources that help to make that possible. Today we have more than 90,000 people in our network, and we partner with hundreds of school districts, state agencies, and other organizations across the country. We really want to create those school communities, not just where children learn how to make healthy choices, but where they get the opportunity to practice those choices from the minute they walk in that door in the morning until the end of the day, and then beyond into their home life as well. So this presentation is part of the Action for Healthy Kids Parent Leadership Series, and we hope that parents come away with some strategies to make the case for a healthy school and really get buy-in and support from their school community. I will also talk a little bit about wellness policies and talk about the value of building a school health team. And then at the end, we'll hear our success stories from our parent visitors. So I will turn it over to Denise now, and she'll get us started.
Thank you, Carol, and hello, everyone. So making the case for school wellness is an essential first step towards creating a healthier school culture. And whether you're a teacher, a principal, a parent, or a student, it's important to know how to talk about your projects, your goals, and how to convey why these efforts are so important and necessary. The why is what will get your school community behind you and what will help to build support for everything that comes next. So first, you can talk about the connection between schools and health. What is a school's mission? Our schools are supposed to teach our kids about reading, writing, and arithmetic. So how do you convince skeptical members of your school community that health should be an essential part of this mission as well? So here are some things that you can point out. Schools reach most children and adolescents in a community, and kids spend around 1,200 hours per year in school, which provides kids with a lot of opportunity to practice healthy behaviors. Teachers, administrators, school staff, and parent volunteers are all key role models for our kids. And curriculum standards for health usually include nutrition and physical education. So shouldn't our policies, practices, and climate reflect those standards rather than conflict with them? And schools show kids what we value and what is important in our community. And most importantly, we know that healthy kids learn better. There are many studies linking good nutrition and physical activity with academic performance, and for that reason alone, we feel that schools should be addressing this issue. So here's a great resource from Action for Healthy Kids called The Learning Connection. It's an easy-to-read special report that summarizes the research proving that healthy kids are better learners. And we encourage you to download it from our website here listed and share it with other parents and in particular your school leaders. And you can also share some of these eye-grabbing statistics here on the screen. 1 out of 3 American children are overweight or obese, and 30 to 40% eat fast food on any given day. Kids spend more than 7.5 hours in front of a screen for non-school purposes, and they view more than 40,000 commercials on TV each year. 87% of the food and beverages that they see on TV are for unhealthy foods. And only 1 in 3 children are physically active every day, yet only 6 states require physical education in every grade, K through 12. So if you can find local data from your local health organizations that directly relate to your own community, that's even better. And many people don't know that 27% of young Americans are too overweight to serve in our military. Approximately 15,000 potential recruits fail their physicals every year because they are unfit. So it's important to point out that the obesity crisis in our country is not just a health crisis, but it's also a national security crisis, an economic crisis, and an education crisis, and will affect our country's success in all of these areas. Most people know that the U.S. is suffering from an obesity crisis, but they may not know how serious it is, how it relates to their own personal lives, or even to the school environment in particular. So making that connection for people will really help to build support for your team's work. And even more important than sharing facts, try to make a link to people's personal lives when you're building support for your projects. Many people get involved with health and wellness in schools because they've seen the consequences of unhealthy living play out within their own families. So encourage them to share their stories if you're in an appropriate setting and if they're comfortable doing so. Also be sure to connect your message with daily practices taking place at your school. Is your school sending conflicting messages about health and about what is valued? And does the school culture reflect a healthy message? So here we have another resource that can help you make the case. It's a slideshow that you can present to your school audience called Share Healthy Food and Activity at School. It talks about the obesity crisis, the connection between health and learning, common school customs and the conflicting messages they sometimes send, and best practices for healthy schools. We've also recorded it and put it on YouTube, so all you have to do is play it for your audience. And if you'd prefer to do it that way, it's recorded in English and in Spanish.
All right, so let's get back to the slide that we showed at the very beginning of the presentation while you were waiting. Dale Carnegie's 6 Ways to Make People Like You are from How to Win Friends and Influence People, which was one of the very first best-selling self-help books that was ever published. And these tips really are just as applicable today as they were when he wrote the book back in 1936. These really are core principles for winning support, and they're very simple. And we show them to you because when you use these principles in your interactions at school, you're going to have a much higher chance of success. Because building support for your vision of a healthy school really is all about building relationships within the people in your school community. So let's review the typical public school leadership structure. Students and parents are at the top because schools exist to serve them after all. The school board is next on the hierarchy, and elected by the public, they ultimately are responsible for overseeing a district's success. And it's really important that you don't forget them when you're looking for people to support you. They're definitely a key audience. Now, the superintendent, the district administrators, nutrition services, and those district advisory teams all sit below the board. So in addition to the parents and students, on a day-to-day basis, you'll probably be working mostly with the bottom 2 tiers. And that includes the individual school leaders or the building administrators like the principal and the assistant principals. It includes the school improvement teams, which we'll talk about more in just a minute. And then, of course, parent groups, the PTO or PTA, which have a very large role in guiding the school culture. The teachers and the other school staff also, obviously getting teacher support is key for creating healthier classrooms. And overall, though, the building administrators, especially the principal, hold the greatest power to create a healthy or an unhealthy school environment. So it's really, really important to get their support right from the very beginning. So when you are ready to go about engaging your principal, what do? Definitely remember those principles. You want to develop a positive relationship. You want to show up at school functions and events and make a point of chatting with the principal. Show that you're a dedicated team member and that you, like the principal, you want the school to be as successful as possible. I'm going to try to understand his or her vision and philosophy and priorities. If you know what concerns she has, test scores, absenteeism, parent involvement, and that type of thing, behavior issues, you can help to present those ideas as solutions to the principal's primary concerns. And really important, try to avoid adding anything to the principal's to-do list. You're really just asking for permission and support here. And then you'll want to develop a positive relationship with the other school groups in the same way. These could include classroom teachers, the PE department, before and after school groups. It's really important that you build credibility with these groups by showing an interest in a variety of different school activities. You don't want to be a one-issue person because you won't be taken seriously that way. Do your homework, become familiar with the requirements and the policies that relate to health and wellness. And we mentioned the school improvement team, known as the accountability team or the school improvement team. This is a formal group made up of teachers and school leaders like the principal. It often has community members and parents on it. And this team develops goals for the school, which it lays out in a document called the School Improvement Plan. It could be called something slightly different where you are. Here in Colorado, it's called the Unified Improvement Plan. So in this plan, the goals will vary by school, but they usually do relate to academic achievement, which of course is linked to healthy students. And these improvement plans set the direction the school takes. As a result, they could be the best place to integrate wellness strategies, since progress on these improvement goals are more likely to be reviewed and evaluated, sometimes more frequently than PTA projects or policy initiatives. All right, so maybe the cafeteria is a place you'd like to focus. Would you like to see menu changes or more time for lunch, or maybe a better eating environment, physical environment in the cafeteria? If you have concerns like these, you'll want to get to know both your cafeteria manager at your individual school, and you're going to want to talk to district nutrition services staff. Decisions about school meals generally can happen at either level, just depending on how your own district operates. Get some background information, learn how the National School Meal Program works. We do have a webinar that can help called School Meals, Challenges, Opportunities. You can also ask food service staff about the concerns and challenges they face in feeding students, and listen carefully. Respect those concerns and show how much you appreciate their hard work. It's really, really difficult for them to come up with these healthy, balanced meals that meet or exceed the regulations and that also appeal to kids. And they have such limited financial and human resources. And when you do have questions or concerns, you want to ask them in a respectful way that shows really, with all of these groups, you want to show that you value their expertise. You know, instead of saying, you know, why are you feeding all my kids all this junk food? You know, phrase it, I'm concerned about this. Help me understand why it's done this way. So engaging other parents to support your cause may end up being one of your biggest and most critical challenges. But if you're having trouble bringing your principal and teachers on board, it could be because of that pushback that they'll get from other parents. School leaders are constantly choosing their battles. But if you can show them that a majority of parents are supportive of your efforts, it really will go a long way towards getting their support and buy-in as well. Bringing your PTA or PTO on board with health and wellness is really a good place to start. They already have a structure in place. They're there to provide students with a voice, and they're there to engage families and support student success. So getting involved with them is a great way to start. It can be easier too to make these changes from within the PTA or PTO, and if you show your support for activities that are important to other parents, they're going to be more likely to support yours. we recommend you involve parents that have a really deep understanding of the culture, the norms, and the dynamics of your community. This is going to help to ensure that your projects are sensitive, they're relevant, and they're welcoming to all. Involve them right from the start. Don't assume that you know what's important to every parent. Allow all of the parents to help identify what's needed and to identify the ways that they'd like to participate. And don't let language be a barrier. If you live in a bilingual or multilingual community, find a bilingual parent who could help you engage other parents to be involved. Look around at drop-off, at pickup, those you see volunteering at school on a regular basis. These are good candidates to engage in your efforts. You can ask teachers and school staff to recommend potential parents to get involved. And here's very simple but really important: smile. It means a lot in any language, and it may help to break the ice for someone who doesn't feel confident or comfortable getting engaged. Another thing, oftentimes parents, oftentimes they understand more English than they can speak if it's not their primary language. So moving on to students. Inviting student input and participation in your efforts is a really good thing. Students can serve on focus groups or advisory boards, or they can be engaged as project leaders. And in fact, student-led activities really usually have a higher chance of success. So you really will want their help when you're trying to communicate your accomplishments and trying to promote your initiatives. As I know this very well, I have teenagers, and their communication channels can be way more effective sometimes than the adults in the room. Definitely you want to tailor the ways that students participate to whatever age group and interest level that you have at your school. So Denise, back to you.
Thank you. So here I want to share some general tips for success when you're working with principals, parents, and any other school groups. First of all, be patient and understanding, but at the same time, be persistent with your efforts. Show that the benefits of your initiatives and show what the benefits your initiatives will have for them. Also, respect the hierarchy. Don't try to undermine anyone, and make sure all of the necessary people are aware of what you're doing. Always take a positive and constructive approach. If you get frustrated along the way, remember to maintain a professional attitude, both in written and face-to-face communications. You know, if you come off as petty and hostile, the school will not want to work with you. And I also want to mention, when you're doing food-related projects, remember that food is very personal. Just be sensitive in the way that you approach discussions about food. Oftentimes singling out particular foods to criticize may hurt some people's feelings or give the impression that you're being critical of their heritage and traditions. Also find common ground. No matter how far apart your viewpoint might be from the other people that you're working with, find something that you can agree with them about. And view compromise as a partial victory that lays a foundation for future efforts. And this one is really key. Start with smaller projects that are easy to win. These small projects are oftentimes planting the seeds for larger initiatives down the road. So engaging school groups is really about building relationships, and sometimes it does take a lot of time, but if you are persistent and approach it in a constructive manner, you'll realize that you are really, those efforts are really paying off. And also I want to mention to consider the school calendar. Schools go through predictable cycles every year when attention is focused more intensely on specific things. So those things may make it harder to get the attention of school leaders or parents, or they may even make the timing ideal for your initiatives depending on the time of the year. So before we move on to wellness policies, let's just check and see if there are any questions coming in. And I just want to remind you that if you do have questions, you can type them into the dialog box in your control panel as we go along. And it does not look, yeah.
I was just going to say, Denise, I can't see a control panel, so you can see if we have questions.
And we don't have any questions currently, so please, you know, if you have them, we'll answer those at the end. Okay, so let's change gears here and talk about school wellness policies a little bit. Federal legislation requires districts that participate in the National School Meals Program to have a wellness policy in place. And that policy needs to include nutrition guidelines for all foods available at school during the school day, goals for nutrition education and promotion, physical activity, and other school-based activities, and a plan for measuring implementation. And it's important to note that although this policy is mandated by law, it does not include funding or a method of enforcement. So it's not consistently implemented in every school or district. District wellness policies are not just developed by district employees. School districts must permit parent input and also input from students, school food service, PE teachers, school health professionals, the school board, school administrators, and also members of the general public to participate in the wellness policy process. And this really provides more flexibility for the local schools and districts to be able to develop policies that meet their unique circumstances, challenges, and opportunities. And the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010 mandated that the USDA set more detailed guidelines for local school wellness policies. And in February 2014, the USDA proposed new additional rules which have already been through the public comment period and are expected to be finalized in the coming months. The proposed guidelines would ensure that foods and beverages marketed to children in schools are consistent with the recently released Smart Snacks in School standards, which went into effect in the 2014-15 school year. And districts would also need to provide parents and community members with annual progress reports for each school and conduct an assessment of the wellness policy itself every 3 years. So the best way to learn about your district's policy and to figure out how it can help you is to take a look at it and answer or ask some of these questions. So who wrote the policy? When was it developed? And who is responsible in your district for its implementation? Are there processes in place to track its implementation at the school level? And are teachers and parents even aware of the policy? In fact, what about the principal? Is the principal aware of its recommendations or requirements? And are wellness policy goals included in the school improvement plan? So whether you have a policy that's perfect or one that needs improvement, use it. Use it as a platform for the projects that you want to implement. When you're talking to others about your project, mention the goals in the wellness policy that your project will help to meet. But what happens if your policy is not being implemented or it's being ignored? Unfortunately, this is a common question and is a frequent problem. If the school hasn't been meeting all of its district wellness policy goals, approach your school leaders and position your initiatives as a positive way to start to move the bar in a positive direction in this area. But remember to be empathetic about how many tasks schools already have on their plates and say that you are willing to help. Okay, and Carol now is going to talk about building a team.
So at Action for Healthy Kids, we really believe that the key to long-term success in school wellness is to build an official school health team. And a team will form a plan, a team will work on all these issues together. We'd really like to see a health team in every school. And there's so many benefits that you can see on the slide. Of course, a greater skill set, more credibility, more people to do the work, which is really important. And really, you have a greater chance for long-term impact when you have a team. Teams come in a variety of shapes and sizes, and they go by a lot of different names, which you can see some of them on the bottom of the slide. But basically, anyone with an interest in school health, whether it's parents, teachers, administrators, school staff, youth, school board members, and community members, any of these people can serve on a team, and really the more voices you have, the better. Now, together, these individuals are going to work together. They're going to develop a vision for your school around health and some goals. They're going to identify the health concerns that are most pertinent to your students and your families, and they're going to create a school health action plan. They lead projects, they raise funds, they promote, and they celebrate successful health initiatives. So how do you get started if you've got some traction and you think there's interest, you've been talking to people, and you want to get started building a team? First, we recommend you develop an elevator pitch. Use some of the points that Denise made earlier in the presentation about making your case. Check out our Share Healthy Food and Activity slideshow or YouTube recording. Use those to develop an elevator pitch. Why do you want to start a wellness team? Back to the principal. If you're going to start an official team, you want to get the principal's approval and buy-in at the highest possible level of commitment. At a minimum, he needs to be aware of and give his approval for what you're doing. If you can get him to support your team publicly, that's even better. And of course, the most ideal situation is that your principal becomes an active participant on the wellness team. But mostly you just take whatever you can get and you go with it. Next, identify champions to help you lead the committee and then others to provide support. And here you're going to want to include people from a variety of the school groups that we talked about earlier. Is there another group working on health-related activities at your school? Maybe a school garden committee, or maybe there's a group doing a walk to school or bike to school initiative. Talk to these people and see if they'd like to join you. If you group a number of different initiatives together under one umbrella school health team, they're going to have a lot more power and momentum. So bringing people together is really a good thing. You want to have the team represent the diversity of your community, as we already talked about before when you're trying to get parents engaged. If you live in a bilingual or multilingual community, you want to try to provide interpretation at meetings if you can. And sometimes school districts can provide this at no cost. You have to check with yours to see what their policy is. Include key players, people who have influence in the school, both formally and informally. And of course, include people who can commit the time. You don't want to do all of the work yourself. Denise, can you mute? Can you do some muting, Denise?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to funding. Let's talk briefly about this. Now, in an ideal world, there would be school and district funds to support your project, and it's definitely worth looking into. Sometimes we think, oh, there's no money for wellness, but sometimes there are little pots of money that go unused, and so it's valuable definitely to ask questions about any school or district funds that might be available. Sometimes your PTO or PTA will be able to earmark funds for wellness projects. You can also look outside the school. You might have families who feel passionate about health and fitness, and they may be willing to donate for specific projects. Sometimes you can find community partners, people or organizations like grocery stores, parks and rec, sporting goods stores, spas, kind of those traditional ones that might have an interest in health and wellness. And they might donate goods or services, if not actual funding. But for funding, there are grants out there from many organizations, local grants, national organizations like Action for Healthy Kids. We provide breakfast grants and some other grants from time to time. Also take a look at health insurance providers, private foundations, community organizations, and then sometimes government agencies. For example, the Colorado Department of Transportation and probably lots of state departments of transportation give out Safe Routes to School grants. So it can be possible sometimes to fund multiple projects with just one grant. We have listed on the slide there a link to the USDA Team Nutrition site that lists a lot of those national grant opportunities that are out there. So it's worth checking in to that site periodically to see if there's anything that would be useful to your project. And let's say a word about sustainability. Now, when we implement school wellness initiatives, we're trying to create lasting lifestyle changes, and this is really important. We're not trying to do one-time projects that might have short-term value, but they don't have lasting impact. This is so important when you consider all the volunteer time that you're putting in, that your team members are putting in, and it's also important when we're trying to find funding for our projects. Funders don't want to invest in short-term impacts. As Healthy School Champions, we really need to look at our own investment of time and resources in this same way. So include sustainability measures in your action plan. You want to implement projects that provide ongoing opportunities for kids to eat right and be active. Community involvement is very, very critical for sustainability, and you also want to promote your initiatives and communicate your progress to the community in a variety of ways. Using a tested program to frame your wellness efforts is also a really good way to get students involved and excited, and that will lead to more sustainability for your program. Game On is Action for Healthy Kids free program framework for K through 12 schools. It uses Eat Better and Move More challenges to engage students. And this is, like I said, a free online program. You can tailor it to meet your own school's specific needs and resources. Schools can go through the program step by step. You can build a team, complete an assessment, create an action plan. It's got all of those steps in it. Or if you already have an active team or you're just looking for some wellness project ideas and templates, you can use it as a resource to find those Eat Better and Move More challenges and templates. So it's got a lot of value no matter what stage you are in the process. And it also helps meet criteria for the Healthier U.S. School Challenge, a Smarter Lunchrooms initiative. And that is a recognition program with financial incentives that's offered by USDA, and it's a great way to promote your initiatives and kind of get some of that recognition that'll help with sustainability as well. We also wanted to mention Every Kid Healthy Week. This is Action for Healthy Kids' national annual celebration of schools' wellness achievements. And the goal of this initiative is to really create that nationwide momentum around school wellness. It takes place the last week of April every year. And it's a really great way to build momentum and engage your community. Last year we had over 1,000 schools hosting Every Kid Healthy events in or around that last week of April. So if your school hosts an event in the spring, why not make the focus be on healthy kids and families and make it an Every Kid Healthy event, and that can help you show and demonstrate your school's commitment to wellness. You can find more information about that on our website, plus we'll also include that link in our follow-up email that will go out. So as I mentioned, this presentation is part of the Action for Healthy Kids Parent Leadership Series. And if you wanted to dive into any of these topics that we've covered today in more depth, you definitely check out the rest of the series. It covers the topics you see on the screen, both with periodic live webinars and lots of archived recorded webinars, and as well as handouts and tip sheets. Some of the materials are also available in Spanish. You can find all of our parent resources on our website at actionforhealthykids.org/parents or /padres for resources that are available in Spanish. So with that, then I'm going to turn it back over to Denise, and we've got lots of great time to hear from our parent champions. Denise.
Yes, thank you. So now I would like to introduce you to two parents who are on our Parent Advisory Board here in Colorado. We've asked them both to share a successful project or initiative that they have worked on and implemented at their school by answering the questions that you see here on the screen. And I just want to briefly mention that if you are sharing your story, these questions are really good to kind of help you formulate your story and some of the things that you can share with other people. So first, I would like to introduce you to Liz Murphy. She is a parent champion at West Jefferson Elementary in Conifer, Colorado. And Liz is going to share her experience with us regarding a healthy Halloween event that she just did. Liz, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Good morning, everybody. sorry for the interruption earlier, part of working at home with a toddler. So we started our group at the West Jefferson Elementary School at the end of last school year. And it stemmed from a need that I was seeing when my half-day kindergarten student came home after school, very excited to share with me that she had had not only a brownie and an ice cream sundae party to celebrate her classroom winning in a fundraising competition, but also a donut celebration for another child's birthday party. And that got me to thinking that, you know, she was 5 years old at the time in a half-day program. She would only be spending more time in school as the years went on, and this year she is now in full-day program in first grade. And I felt like, you know, that was too much. I feel like that the larger worry would be that there would be more and more things like that. So a friend of mine was working with a community partner with already existing health and wellness groups at many of our local elementary schools. And I got a lot of information from her and about what the other schools in our area were doing, which gave me courage and information that I needed to pursue starting a health and wellness group at our school. This connects to our family a lot very personally. We've always focused on healthy living as an important value in our home. But in 2014, that became a very primary focus for us when I was diagnosed with a brain tumor and subsequently brain cancer. And this is obviously a big obstacle for us to overcome. But beyond focusing on my own health, it made me even more conscious of the health of my children. They were starting the beginning of 12 years of being in school for 35 hours a week, away from us and our choices for them, and into an environment where they were influenced by their peers and by the school schedule. And school impacts all of our students in many positive ways, but my hope was that we could get the school to focus on the whole student, not only creating an intelligent student body, but a healthy one as well. So once we had our group started at the end of last year with the beginning of our Health and Wellness Committee, we gained the support of the PTA. And then we began with a focus group in September to see what kind of projects people would be interested in pursuing. One of the big projects that we took on this year was Halloween. That's where there's a lot of focus on sweets and treats. And we always have Halloween classroom parties, as many of the schools do. And we also are in a rural area. We host a trunk or treat event in the evening where children can trick or treat at decorated cars. These events are lots of fun, and we didn't want to take away from those, but we decided to host a healthy snack contest for the classroom party to encourage healthy submissions. And that went over great. We had a lot of entries, a lot of winners. People were very excited about it, and it was great to see a change in the classrooms from a lot of sweet treats to lots of things, from fruits and veggies to cheese and whole grain snacks. And we also decided to implement the Switch Witch, which is the picture that you see on the screen right now. And we give the kids an opportunity that when they were trunk or treating around at our school, they could come and visit the Switch Witch and trade out their candy for non-food prizes. And that was very successful. We ended up with collecting 36 pounds of candy back from the kids. So definitely an opportunity to get a lot of the sugar out of their bags and have them still be happy and excited. I think overall that we have a lot of work to do, and I think it can be very challenging to start these groups and figure out what projects to work on. But a tip that I would share with parents that are just starting would be to move slowly. Lots of things that we've seen in the slides so far have been very successful tips, but I think slowly and without losing your message, but some changes that we are attempting to make can be very emotional for people, especially surrounding celebrations and food. And I think that the phrase "slow and steady wins the race" is very good advice to start out your group with. And thank you so much for having me today. It's really exciting to be able to share our story and hopefully encourage some others of you to get started with your own groups.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And if anyone has a question for Liz or for Sarah, who's coming up next, please remember to type in your questions on your dialog box. Okay, so next I would like to introduce you to Sarah Breeze, who is a parent champion at Prairie Winds Elementary in Monument, Colorado. And I also want to mention that Sarah was one of our 2015 Healthy School Hero Award winners. So congratulations, Sarah. And she is going to share her story about trying to start a district-level wellness team in her school district. Sarah?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Denise. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I have two boys in the district, so I'm at Prairie Winds Elementary, and I also have a student at the middle school this year. And what I want to share with you all is how we got started. About 3 years ago, I was receiving lots of phone calls about my eldest son, who I think you see on the screen now. Just calls from the teachers, the principal, the bus drivers, everybody. He was a little out of control, and we had taken him in, and they, although didn't diagnose him with ADHD, he was showing all the signs of it, and it was suggested at that time that we put him on medication, which I was not willing to do. So after a lot of research, we chose to change his diet at home, and what happened was we saw great progress with him at home, but he started bringing home all of the things that he was being given at school that he knew he couldn't have. And when the handfuls and handfuls of candy were showing up every week, I thought, I need to get involved. I think I was completely unaware of how much garbage they were really getting at the school. And I think a lot of parents are in that they have that same idea that it's just one piece of candy, and they don't realize how much it adds up until you see a boatload of it come home like that. So I went to my school principal. She had some concerns about it, but didn't really know how to get started. I talked to the teachers. I talked to other parents, and there was a little bit of interest, but it was definitely a slow start. It was a frustrating start. So I went back to the research side of things and found organizations like Colorado Action for Healthy Kids and Live Well Colorado, and read some other blogs online, and everybody suggested, well, find your wellness policy and go from there. So that's what I attempted to do, and I did find it at the district level, but it was buried very, very deep, and we did not have a wellness committee at all in our district. So that was my goal, was to get one started. And I had to go to the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, finally managed to get to the nutrition supervisor, and she was the one that really helped out as far as she said she had interest in doing it as well, but it was tough to get parents on board because, like Liz mentioned, when it comes to the birthday celebrations especially, people are really stuck in those traditions, and it's a very sensitive subject. So after a lot of asking around, I finally found a few more parents to step up and say, yeah, we need to do something about this. In the middle of all of this, we actually moved, which turned out to be a good thing. I'm in the same district, but I went to a different elementary school. Knowing what I knew from before, I went into the new elementary with a different attitude, a very positive attitude. I went in offering suggestions on things that we could do rather than things that we shouldn't be doing. And that made all the difference in the challenges that I was seeing. And at this point, we do have a district wellness committee started. It's currently being run by our director of curriculum, but we have 2 teachers involved as well. And the principal at my new school is very much on board. So we're starting a wellness team at the school level. And my hope at this point is that once we're really getting a firm start at the elementary school, and I intend to take the progress that we're making there back to the district level so that the other schools can begin to mimic what we've done there. And what I want to say on this call is these slides were absolutely exactly what you need to know to get started. Be positive. Don't ever assume that people are trying to feed your kids bad food. It's just, I think people have done this the same way for so long that it's just really tough to make those changes. But if you go in and just provide the healthy snack, other parents will see that and follow suit. And the other thing that I want to mention is my boys especially, they have gotten on board with this, and now when they're in the classroom and they turn down a food reward, their teachers have been giving them other options. Like my youngest loves to be able to take his shoes off and just walk around in his socks, and now his teacher has told me that several of the other kids are now turning down candy to do that as well. So they're tiny successes, but those are the ones that really matter. And like I said, this was a great presentation, and follow the slides because that's the way that you're going to get through to anybody and stay positive. That's all I have.
All right, great, Sarah. Thank you for sharing your story. And I think, I think a lot of parents don't realize that all of the frustration and efforts that they're putting in really are making a difference. You may not see it now, but I think when you look back and see where you've come from, you've come a long way. So congratulations on that, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think, Carol, now we're going to take some questions, and I do have some questions that have come in. So this one is directly for Liz. How did Liz recruit parents, and does she have monolingual parents in a language other than English on her parent team? And I think Sarah could probably answer this as well. Liz, do you want to go first?
Did we lose Liz? I'm still here.
Liz, you there?
Oh, sorry. I had myself muted so that I wouldn't have any interruptions.
So how did you... Go ahead.
We do not have a bilingual committee. Most of our community up here is English speaking, so we don't have that as a barrier. As far as recruiting other parents, we started out very small. I just approached some friends of mine that I knew were interested in healthy living and physical activity and healthy eating, and some of those parents also work at the school as paraprofessionals and teachers' aides, and so they were very valuable to be able to kind of have an insight into how the school works and how things work there. I think we've grown from word of mouth and also through attending PTA meetings and asking for anybody who's interested to please feel free and come to our committee meetings. We are now an official PTA committee as well, so that helps to gain us some support. And I think we've sent out a newsletter once a month to try to let people know what activities we are up to. We're also working on a website to try to promote our information to parents who may not know we exist and may be interested in joining us at some point.
Okay. And Sarah, do you have anything to add to that of how you've recruited parents, and do you work with monolingual?
We are almost all English speaking here too, so I don't have another language parent. But the one thing I want to add, other than word of mouth, this year our principal actually allowed us on back to school night in August. We had a table set up in the front of the school with just a sign-up sheet, and what was important about that was we printed out a list of things that we'd like to see happen, that we'd like to see a greenhouse, we'd like to see this. We hit 5 or 6 different topics in hopes that at least one of those would interest some of the parents. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but I had 5 people sign up that night, and I was thrilled. So that's a good way to reach people too. But of course, our principal did sign off on that.
Okay.
Denise?
Yes.
So regarding the question about monolingual parents, and we do have a community outreach specialist named Maritza who was going to join us today, but unfortunately she is sick and is coughing, so not a great place for her to be presenting. But if when the questions come through, we have your email and information. We could always connect you with Maritza to probably, answer more specific questions about that, because she works with lots of parents that are Spanish speaking only, and has some great ideas and tips related to that. So we'll, get your name and email from the question list and follow up with you. Okay.
Okay. And we have a couple more questions for Liz and Sarah, and then we can move on, if we have time, to some general questions. So this one is for Sarah. Do you work with a lot of parents on your project on the District Wellness Committee?
Yes, it was formed by parents, and then we had to bring the staff in. But we really, getting teachers to be representative on that committee was kind of the turning point for us, because that gave us the credibility with the rest of the district higher up. So it is mostly parents, but we also have, we kind of have specified which parents. We have a nutritionist, we have a nurse, also parents in the district, but they just happen to have those qualities, which was awesome. But it is mostly parents that have gotten things started here.
Okay. And the next question for Sarah and Liz, do you see a need for nutrition education in the classroom as an ongoing mandated curriculum expectation, and do you think children and teachers would be receptive to this?
Yes. I believe it. I believe that is very important, and I believe it's the base for all of this, because one of my biggest pet peeves with the food as reward or the cupcake celebration is the fact that we're teaching a habit to those kids. It's not just the candy. Even if they were being rewarded with carrots, I would have a problem with it, because we shouldn't be using food as a reward, and we shouldn't be eating just because it's a birthday. And I believe the day-to-day nutritional education will teach better habits.
I also agree that it would be definitely something to pursue, something that I think would be very important. I think it is very challenging, and it's something you have to really persevere to stick with, because I know there's a lot of conversation about not enough time in the day and have to fit in all of the other curriculum. But I think that if you are able to succeed in getting that in, that it is a wonderful tool, because it really goes to that teaching towards creating a successful child to a successful adult piece, creating a whole child who is not only well educated in academics, but also has some education that will help them become a healthy participant in our communities. Nutrition, fuels the mind and enables kids to be able to learn better, as well as physical activity causing more brain activity. So I think yes, I think it's a challenge, but I think it is definitely one worth pursuing.
Okay, thank you. This is a question regarding wellness policies in general. So if your school is one of many, over 100 in a county-wide district, must it have its own wellness policy, or is it governed by the district-wide policy? Carol, do you want to take that?
Yes, I think so. Was the question if should your school have its own wellness policy, or would
Exactly.
it be governed by the school wellness policies? It really is the job or a requirement of your school food authority. If your school or district participates in the National School Meal Programs, then your district is required to have a school wellness policy. There are no requirements that individual schools have policies, so it's just really at the district level or the level of whoever the school food authority is. And school food authority is a term that it could often your district is its own school food authority. Sometimes smaller districts will be combined together. It just kind of depends on who's got the what entity has been given the authority. But there's nothing that says a school has to have its own individual policy. So, but that doesn't mean your school can't create its own guidelines and its own school level policies. It's just not mandated that you have them.
Yeah, and I just want to add that many schools at the school level are creating their own policies that are more specific to the school because they're finding that the district-wide policies are pretty general. So the school could always, come up with its own individual policy that might be a little bit stronger than the district policy. Okay, we have a few more minutes. I have a question about physical activity during the winter. So what kind of group physical activities can be incorporated in a child's daily schedule during the winter season?
So we have a great webinar, several great webinars on physical activity that I definitely can put in the follow-up email that goes out, and they will cover things like classroom brain breaks, or now called brain boosters, really. Those are really key. These little 1 minute to 5 minute to 10-minute breaks throughout the classroom day that just get kids moving. Definitely more active recess. Before and after school activities. I'm sorry, was the question during the school day?
During the school day,
right. Okay. Things like fitness alarms. Instead of having a fire drill, you can have a fitness drill, and everybody can, principal can come on a loudspeaker, and everybody can get up and do some, exercises for a couple of minutes. We have a webinar next week, one of our 30-minute mini webinars on Wednesday that is about yoga in the classroom. Another great way to do a brain booster, but yoga has its own set of benefits that are different and just as valuable as getting up and doing exercises. So I would definitely recommend that webinar for parents and definitely for teachers too if you want to get something going. Denise, I'm sure you have other things that you could add too, if you want.
No, I think what you said is that's a really good idea about the fitness break on the loudspeaker. I would also just add that you can do Go Noodle has a really great program that teachers can pull up on the computer where the kids can dance in the classroom. You can get Fit Sticks where the teachers can, pull up little activities that the kids can do every so often. And there's a lot of other really great indoor recess, if you're talking about, inclement weather, indoor recess ideas that are on that webinar as well. We also have an indoor recess webinar specifically. Did you mention that?
Oh, we do have that too. Yes, it's a little 15-minute webinar from one of our parents in our network and how they got an indoor recess program going. So the best practice really is that your school adopt a comprehensive physical activity program. And there's the Let's Move Active Schools is a great resource for that. It's got so many different, it's got probably, dozens and dozens, probably hundreds of different ideas on how to get kids moving more. And so we'll put those resources in the follow-up.
And it looks like we are out of time. There are several more questions that we did not answer, but we can get to them after the webinar.
So let me just wrap up also by saying Action for Healthy Kids has a lot of great social media resources where you can get tips, YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, that type of thing, Twitter. If you sign up and follow us on those, you will get more ideas for sure. And I did so want to ask Liz where she got that color of hair in that photo, but I guess I'll have to do that offline. But anyway, thank you so much to both our parent guests and to everybody who's participating today. It's great that so many people are taking time out of their day to learn how to make their schools healthier. And if you want to learn more about Action for Healthy Kids and what we do, you can go to our website, take our Every Kid Healthy pledge, and definitely look for that follow-up information in your inbox within a couple of days. Thanks so much for joining us today.